Okay, I'm going to try and do a short review for the quiz, and I'm going to use some problems that we've already looked at. So I'm going to start with number 4 from your notes on 5.5 indirect proof. So you can, if you want to turn to that, you can. I'm having trouble uploading them onto my iPad here for some reason. Just all of a sudden, I've never had this problem before, but this all of a sudden it is, so oh well. So I'm just going to draw it out for you. It has a triangle A, B, C. Whoops, and it doesn't look like that. Hang on. A, B, C, and it says given AB is not congruent to BC. And then it says prove angle A is not congruent to angle C. So what I suggested to you in class was to just go ahead and do it as a regular proof, and then you can fill out your little paragraph that you need to do. So remember, when we're doing this, oh, this one should be not. This is not. Okay, so remember, when we're doing this, we're going to take the proof statement and we're going to do the opposite. So we're going to say angle A is congruent to angle C, and we're going to make that an assumption. And so if angle A is congruent to angle C, then we know that this side would be congruent to this side. AB would be congruent to BC. And why is that? If two angles in one triangle are congruent, then opposite sides are congruent. Okay, and if that's the case, then we can say that that's a contradiction. We say AB is congruent to BC, it contradicts our given right here. And so our proof statement is true. So if we're going to write that out in a little paragraph, we would say assume angle A is congruent to angle C. Then AB would be congruent to BC, because if, and we write this statement out, if two angles are in one triangle are congruent, then opposite sides congruent. This contradicts the given AB is not congruent with BC. Therefore, our assumption is false, and the proof angle A is not congruent with angle C, is true. Okay, let's try another one. Let's go to your homework for 5.5. This is 5.5 indirect proof, number 1. Okay, so this is problem number 1 on that homework page. It says, given that the measure of angle B is not congruent to the measure of angle C, prove that AB is not congruent to AC. So we're going to do a little statement, reason, and we're going to start with the opposite, which is AB is equal to AC, and that's an assumption. And if that's true, then we could say, whoops, and I just marked the wrong one, AB congruent to AC. Okay, so if those two are congruent, then we could say that these two angles if two sides on one triangle are congruent, then opposite sides congruent, opposite angles, sorry. And so then we can say the measure of angle B is congruent to the measure of angle C. definition of congruent angles. And that contradicts our given up here, and so our assumption must be false, and therefore the proof statement is true. So if we're going to write that out, you just follow along with what you have on your proof. So we would say assume AB is equal to AC. Then angle B is congruent to angle C, because if two sides of one triangle are congruent, then opposite angles congruent. Then the measure of angle B is congruent to the measure of angle C by definition of congruent angles. Therefore, oh, sorry, don't want to do that yet. So we say this contradicts the given that the measure of angle B is not equal to the measure of angle C, and therefore our assumption is false, and the proof AB is not congruent to AC is true. Okay, let's try another one. This will be number 4 from your homework, 5.5 indirect proofs. Okay, so on this number 4, here's the picture, and it says given angle 1 is not congruent to angle 3, prove that angle 3 and angle 4 are not supplementary. So let's do the opposite, doing a little proof. So we're going to say, we're going to assume the opposite. Angle 3 and angle 4 are supplementary. That's what we assume. And so when we assume they are supplementary, we could say then, let's see here, I forgot to put the names of the lines. K is parallel to L because if same side interior angles are supplementary, then two lines are parallel. And if those two lines are parallel, we could say angle 1 is congruent to angle 3. Why? If two lines parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent, and that contradicts this given, and therefore our assumption must be false and the proof statement is true. So I'm not going to write it all out again. You can just follow along. You just say assume angle 3 and angle 4 are supplementary. Then K is parallel to L because same side interior angles are supplementary, then the two lines are parallel. Then angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 because if two lines are parallel, then the corresponding angles are congruent. This contradicts the given that angle 1 is not congruent to angle 3. Therefore, our assumption must be false, and the prove angle 3 and angle 4 are not supplementary is true. Okay, so there you go. Okay, here's number 5 from that same homework page. So you're going to do a proof, and we're going to say statement, reason, and so we're going to start with an assumption, and we're going to assume the opposite of our proof. So we're going to say Bx is equal to AW, and so if Bx is equal to AW, then we could say Bx is congruent to AW because definition of congruent segments. And so then if those two are congruent, we can say oh, we can move to this given right here. TA is congruent to TB, given. And then we can say that this angle right here, TAW, is congruent to this angle right here, TBX. And why is that? Because we have two sides on one triangle congruent, then opposite angles congruent. And if that's true, now we can say that this triangle and this triangle are congruent by SAS. And if that's true, then we can say, I'm going to erase those real quick. Oops. I'm not going to erase those, sorry. So now you're just going to have to look because I messed up that picture a little bit. We can say that TW is congruent to TX by CPCTC. And that contradicts this statement right here. And since that contradicts our given, then we can say our assumption is false and our proof statement is true. So again, I'm not going to write that all out. You'll just follow along your statements and you can fill out your little paragraph.